Now everybody is trying to say, well, let's try to understand these people who are killing, massacring others, the people they don't like, just like flies. But in my case, is to compare it to the most perfect government of the world. In the case of those kind of people, usually there is a tendency, especially in the most liberal circles in the world, oh, let's try to understand them. Let's establish a dialogue. This is something that I don't understand.
I'm only adding this chunk due to the false information being spread and hypocrisy from ignorant parties. For you white, Western, European-descended leftists, Democrats, liberals, all the categories, if you just started caring about Iran after 47 years of a dictatorship, go fuck yourself. We don't need your performative activism, your allyship is a mockery of the word, your white guilt is worthless. Let's not pretend any of you care about racial or ethnic equality. Almost 40,000 Iranians were slaughtered in 2 days in January, and you said nothing! Injured Iranians avoided going to hospitals to avoid being arrested or executed by the regime. Surviving relatives of massacre victims have to pay to get the bodies of their loved ones back. It adds to the humiliation. Number 1. No one in Iran wanted Islam forced on them. Wanting the regime gone isn't Islamophobia. The regime is a dictatorship. There is no freedom of religion. Number 2. At least right-wing people are honest about being terrible. White leftists swoop in to take credit for everyone's work only when they see others succeeding. You are vultures and you're still colonists deep down. Other cultures know. Even modern colonists love stealing other people's recipes and pushing them out. Just because they have to erase the source of their guilt they'll never work on. For anyone who wonders why Iran turned out the way it did, the US and Europeans carry some of the blame. They love the control and the glory and clout, but none of the consequences and reality. That's why you all expect the minorities in other countries to do the cleaning up. Number 3. Amplify, do not speak for Iranians. This goes for any social cause where you people aren't the main characters. No one needs your white leftist, guilt-ridden, self-serving, paternalistic bullshit. You all usually make things worse because you don't listen, you perform goodness for yourselves. Your culture is sneaking around, breaking treaties, and kneecapping people to get ahead, then denying it. The world knows you people don't care about non-European races, ethnicities, and cultures. 47 years in, fuck off with your false solidarity and hashtags, it's too late. Here's the 4th point. The only thing white people should be doing is amplifying the voices of marginalized people in the West and calling out other white people. White leftists love thinking they know more about minorities and our cultures than we do, and they love explaining our cultures to us as if the cultures aren't even ours. There is no white man's burden, the burden is white people. Don't pretend to care about Iran, stop using minorities as props. People from other backgrounds are just nice to you all so you don't go commit mass shootings. Just call out your own people because your demographic causes most of the problems anyway, whether you're right, left, or centrist. It's why white guilt exists. It's telling how many of you are more angry that a dictator got killed than over 30,000 Iranians slaughtered in 2 days. Iranians inside and outside the country support the fall of the regime. They are not sad that a dictator is dead. I do not speak for all Iranians. My views are my own. But the regime must go. This is what Iranians want. No new Ayatollah. Iranians deserve their autonomy, their dignity, and their home back. Also the right to pick who they want to lead without authoritarianism and theocracy forced on them. Iranians are aware that the US and Israel aren't doing this out of the goodness of their heart. They do not need others to tell them that. Non-Iranian voices are not needed right now, for bandwagoning vocal or silent supporters. For those in the West, especially the US, stick to calling out white supremacy because minorities are still being disappeared. Do not lecture Iranians on how they should react. You don't know anything about the culture to begin with. You don't know what Iranians want. You just started paying attention. This is your new performative crusade of moral superiority that you did not have to live through personally. Right, left, or centrist, doesn't matter. Watching a TikTok, watching a documentary, having a passing interaction with an Iranian is not a substitute for the actual experience of being one. Colonist audacity is not needed. Right now, this time is for Iranians. Thanks for listening. The regime can't be allowed to exist. It's not gone yet and is executing people for celebrating the dictator's death. Her name is Nahal Ahu Qalandari. As an Iranian American and part of the diaspora, I can't sit around and make comics videos without discussing the revolution going on in Iran currently. I'm very much privileged to be here while people actually living in Iran of all ages are fighting for their freedom and have been every day since 1979. What is going on in Iran and has been going on is not a great issue. Iranians rising up against the regime is the result of people fighting for the basic human rights that have been denied to them since 1979. Over 36,000 people were massacred by military weapons between January 8th to 9th, 2026, with more dying every day. At this point, the currency has completely crashed. In the last video I made, I talked about some of the Iranians who were imprisoned by or lost their lives to the regime during the Masa Amini protests in 2022. This won't be everyone, but I'll mention some Iranians impacted by the protests going on now. Ali Haydari, Shervin Baqerian, Negin Qadimi, Taha Hoshiar, Sahar Fala, Rohan Barjeste, Ziba Dastjerdi, Reza Azimzadeh, Erfan Amiri. When I say Iran, I refer to the people, not the Islamic Republic that subjugates and kills Iranians. That is not Iran. The regime is not representative of Iranians and the diaspora. A lot of people use Iran interchangeably, and that is incorrect. The regime is a tumor that needs to be cut out. It is everything Iran is not. Iran with its many different ethnicities and languages and vast history. The Islamic Republic is not Iran. They are not truly Iranian. They are demons in human skin suits who corrupt the meaning of what it is to be Iranian and a human being. That is why this revolution is important. Iranians are some of the warmest, most hospitable people on the planet. Average Iranians want the regime gone. Also, this is the pro-regime bloody pitchfork flag. This is the true flag of Iran, which people can still be arrested or executed for showing in public. Iranians need to take their home back for themselves. There has been deafening silence from the West, especially from those who claim to be progressive and support protests against authoritarianism. While right-wingers cannot be depended on to act like human beings, white Western leftists and progressives aren't much better, repeatedly revealing themselves to be hypocrites and performative activists, caring more about looking good to themselves than about actual human rights. In the US, it's been clear that one group gets more attention than other ones. For white Americans, things just started getting bad with the ICE executions of 2 white people on camera. Why? What happened to you All Lives Matter people? I thought all lives mattered to you, not just the white ones. Now you're seeing celebrities suddenly speaking up, screeching, "They're coming for us." When they say us, they still mean white people. It's never been about people from minority groups or other countries. All these dead and detained black and brown people and people from other non-European backgrounds. When I say white, I mean the made-up concept created by Europeans to establish a hierarchy that benefits them. I'm not referring to skin tone or passing, even though colorism is 100% an issue. Also, not talking about checking the white box but still being marginalized. White refers to Eurocentric because that's what they register. People from different groups and other countries have been speaking up against authoritarianism this whole time. The month that this video is coming out in is Black History Month in the US. That's all that is, a history of people speaking up. European Americans can't pretend this is suddenly new because 2 white people got shot. For those of non-European descent, what's happening in the US isn't something that suddenly happened or that can be turned off. Also, whether it's people in Iran or the diaspora, we've been speaking up this whole time. I've been speaking up about events in Iran my whole life. White people won't listen to points others make unless it's from one of their own mouths. Listening to others would mean humanizing those outside of their demographic. Part of their white supremacist structure that every single one of them inhabits is seeing those outside of their group as beneath them. These people thought their privilege made them exempt. They genuinely believed that detainment and bullets were reserved for non-Europeans. For them, the darker the skin tone, the more this applies. All of the true progress being made in the West is done by people from marginalized groups and other cultures. The reason anything even exists here is because it was built on the backs of indigenous and black people and the backs of other non-colonizing cultures. There are all these different causes that aim to raise awareness, and I know I'll miss a lot. Black Lives Matter, they ignored that. Stop Asian Hate, they ignored that. The Masa Amini protests, some of them pretended to care about that. The current Free Iran protests, they're ignoring that as well. Let's not pretend white America cares about Palestine and Ukraine either. And them just starting to care now shows you just how unserious everything is in the US. Minorities are still getting kidnapped, by the way. People who are here legally and have been for a while. People who are just trying to live their lives. Neighbors, business owners, they're just Americans. Forget this white paranoia that minorities are trying to replace them. All people want to do is live in peace and be left alone. But European Americans have made it clear that no lives matter but their own. When they interact with minorities, it's usually for personal gain, not because they have a stake in a cause. White people are out here obsessing over everybody, black, Asian, Hispanic, Middle Eastern, just getting in everybody's business. They initiate an interaction or attack, minorities respond, that's usually what it is, responding to these people getting in your space. Then white people twist themselves into the main characters or pretend they're victims. People are trying to mind their business. Whenever white leftists or progressives speak up, it's the McDonald's centrist neutered version of activism. They're not saying or risking anything, just performing for people from their demographic. They might as well say bad things bad. Yes, we know, Nazis and fascism are bad. It's common sense, like looking both ways before crossing the street. But what are they going to do about their biases when they're still part of the problem? Like, even if the ICE situation ends, when there's no reason for them to perform anymore, things will go right back to how they were. They love throwing out those all lives matter feel-good civil rights era quotes, ignoring the ones that are critical and push for change.
How do you go about not alienating the white man who has been for you
We don't
through
care.
violence?
We don't care. For
don't
400 years, they have murdered, burned, raped, castrated, and tortured. I give less than a hootenanny what any white person thinks about this black man is.
Well, but don't you want us to be with you?
I don't want you to do anything but leave us alone.
Oh.
We don't need you.
But I mean moral support. I don't mean do anything for you, but
Work in your own neighborhood with the white people. They need the more morality. We don't.
stood up for the Negro, and now they say, well, now when they resort to violence, we are not with them.
Violence?
Well, I mean in some of these riot areas.
Well, riot areas. You talk about we resort to violence when I talked to a reporter for Newsweek who told of National Guardsmen shooting down people in the back. Understand? As they're walking down the street minding their business, shooting in caliber machine guns.
Yes,
now wait a minute, listen. You said
yes.
about violence. Yeah, I get sick in my stomach when I hear a white person talk about violence. You're the most violent people in the world.
I believe
You are
that.
born on it, you live on it, you're sick with it. You're saturated with it. We have been the most peaceable, law-abiding fools the world has ever seen.
The dark skin. The fact that Negroes are in the ghetto or the Negroes are oppressed is not so terrifying as is the fact the white Americans who do this every day don't want to know they're doing it. Segregation means that you can penalize a man for being born black, and then you can pretend you did not do it.
Taking their position in reverse?
Don't say the whites down south. Whites up north. There's no difference between whites in the south and whites in the north, only the whites in the south aren't hypocritical about it. You don't find any more there is just as much social intermixing in the south as between the races as there is in the north. Only in the south they let you know where they stand, and in the north they take a hypocritical approach or attitude or reaction.
White and progressive don't belong in the same sentence. They prefer stasis at best or regression. The only people progressing anything in the West, especially in the US, are outside of the Eurocentric bubble. Without people from other cultures, these Puritans would still be lighting their own women on fire and calling them witches for being on their period. With the revolution in Iran, I'm not really concerned with alienating white people because they've never supported Iranians anyway, right, left, or centrists. Not in my lifetime, not even since 1979. The ones who claim to are doing it to make themselves look good to people in their demographic, but they still care more about their false sense of superiority than basic human rights and overthrowing a dictatorship. It's not really a demographic I'm trying to appeal to. Iranians don't need Western masturbatory performative activism, they need follow-through. Like I said in my last video, not an anti-protest spiel, just an anti-performative one. Also, another personal opinion. These fake activists will capitalize on these protests and people's pain by making t-shirts or merch to sell in the name of their hollow activism. They are scum doing it for personal gain and profit. Also, these tech companies have been selling our information for a while, but now they're specifically handing over information of anyone who criticizes ICE. They just want it to be easier to disappear marginalized people. Outlets like New York Times are putting up articles of how the regime, quote, crushed uprisings, and that's not the case. Iranians are still pushing back. It's irresponsible reporting on the part of these outlets. This is not about these fake activists. This is about the people of Iran. I can't sit here and talk about fiction knowing that almost 40,000 people were wiped out by military weapons in just 2 days in January. For any Iranians watching, know that the diaspora supports you and has always been supporting you. When you gain your freedom and overthrow the regime, know that it's the victory you earned and you deserve. So I'm going to be paying attention to Iran. I wanted to wrap this up by listing the names of some people executed by ICE who don't get much coverage. The ones who didn't get their names directly mentioned in Springsteen songs. Just because their executions weren't caught on camera doesn't mean they didn't happen. Like with Iranians who lost their lives, remembering these people's names is the least we can do. Harity Law, Keith Porter Jr., Victor Manuel Diaz, Luis Gustavo Núñez Cáceres. برای آدمای ایران هممون پشتتون هستیم. هر روز ازتون فکر میکنیم. این جنگ شما هست ولی یک روز آزاد میشین. شیر هستین، خورشید پشتتون هست. شجاعترین آدمای دنیا هستین.
Hello, Iranian here. They keep asking the same question. Why are lefties, why are the loudest pro-Gaza voices completely silent when it comes to Iran? Well, the answer is simple, because the truth exposes the lie. Because acknowledging Iran would shatter the ideological fantasy that they built. Let's be clear, Islamic Republic of Iran is not a victim of Western imperialism. It is a theocratic authoritarian regime that survives by exporting violence, funding Islamists, and crushing its own people. And yes, it funds Hamas, it funds Hezbollah, it funds all the little proxies around the region and around the world with Iranian people's money, not the government money, not the regime money, stolen money taken from the worker who cannot afford bread in Iran right now. Families crushed by inflation, taken from women who are beaten, jailed, tortured, raped for refusing religious obedience. And this is why leftists are silent. Because Hamas fits their narrative, but Iranian people don't. Because Islamist violence against Israelis can be reframed as a resistance. But Islamist violence against Iranian exposes the truth. Right now, as you're watching this, Iran, a country of more than 92 million people, is being erased in real time. Near total blackout for more than 24 hours. No internet, no call services, no connectivity whatsoever. And yet silence. No emergency protests on Western campuses, no hashtags, no solidarity statements, no megaphones, no tears. Because Iranian suffering does not fit their agenda. Because leftist movements today are not driven by human rights. They are driven by selective outrage and ideological loyalty. They will scream about censorship unless it's done by an Islamist regime. They will condemn the state violence unless it's wrapped in religious language. They will chant Free Palestine, but they will never say Free Iran, because that will require admitting something unforgivable. That political Islam is not liberation, it is domination. And that is exactly what's been happening in the West, by the way. That the Islamic Republic is not anti-imperialist, it is imperial toward its own people. That Hamas is not some isolated resistance group. It is part of a broader Islamist ecosystem that is funded, trained, and sustained by the regimes like Islamic Republic in Iran. And here's the part that they do not want to hear. You cannot claim moral superiority while excusing a regime that kills and murders women for refusing hijab, executes protesters, cuts off the whole nation of 92 million people from the internet, and uses foreign proxies as a distraction from its internal collapse. You cannot pretend to care about Palestinians while ignoring Iranians being shot, tortured, and murdered by the Islamic Republic in Iran. That is not solidarity. That is ideological blindness. Iranian people are not silent. They are being silenced. And the silence from the Western left, well, that's a choice. A choice to protect an ideology, a choice to excuse Islamism, a choice to look away when millions of people are suffering. Because their suffering, Iranian people's suffering, complicates a slogan. History will remember this moment. It will remember who spoke for universal freedom and who decided that some lives matter less than preserving a narrative. Long live Iran.
I'm sick of people gaslighting Iranians with like, oh, but you know, Trump doesn't care about the good of the people of Iran and human rights. He just wants his own benefits. Yes, we know. We're not stupid like you. We know. But those same people who say that to us, they're like, but Iran's Islamic Republic was the last line of defense against Western imperialism and was for the people of Palestine. You think they wanted the good of the people of Palestine? Idiots. Another form of gaslighting I'm sick of. Oh, but don't you know that war is bad? Yes, genius. We know that war is bad, but the strikes already happened. So let us at least be hopeful that the future maybe could be better, because this option isn't that good either, okay? And then another thing, stop comparing it to Iraq. Stop saying like, but don't you know about the Iraq war? Yes, we know about Iraq. We know more about Iraq than you do. Here's the thing. We also know that Iraq and Iran are two different countries. We even knew that before last week when you found out. How crazy is that? So maybe two different histories, two different countries, maybe the future could be different. Let us at least be hopeful and stop just trying to win an argument. Shut up. Some of my Western friends are like, why are Iranian people pro-Trump all of a sudden? We're not pro-Trump. We just don't have another option. How sad is this? That's the only thing we got. It's really frustrating to see how the leftist media is covering the war in Iran right now. Because first of all, you basically didn't cover the protests at all. And now you're trying to figure out what to think about the Ayatollah, right? So you're bringing out regime mouthpieces, and they're putting you on the fence on whether he was a bad guy or not. It's like the same people who think the only reason the war is happening is to distract from the Epstein files are openly championing a guy who was in support of child marriage. How hypocritical is that? How stupid is that? How dumb are you guys? If you see Iranians celebrating, it's not because they're happy to see bombs over the cities where they grew up. It's because it feels like this nightmare of a regime might be finally coming to an end. If you see us not protesting against Israel and America, it's because we're blaming the regime for everything that happened. We're blaming this regime that for 47 years did nothing but lead us to certain war. A regime that did nothing for the population but funded militia groups in the region to fly him in and shoot at innocent civilians during protests. And once the war started, what did they do? Did they protect the civilians? No. Did they give them bomb shelters? No. They cut the internet so they can't communicate with each other. They hide in schools and hospitals, and they shoot at innocent people from their balconies. So don't ask me why I'm not protesting against America, because I have a bigger devil over my head.
Top 5 realities of schoolgirls in Iran. Under Sharia law, this is their life. 1. Schoolgirls are forced to wear hijab from the age of 7 when they enter school, whether they like it or not. 2. Schoolgirls are called najas or dirty during their menstrual cycle. 3. The minimum legal age of marriage for girls is only 13 years old. With the consent of father, it is 9. The Ayatollahs turn Iran into an Epstein country. 4. Schoolgirls get killed by the Islamic regime for protesting, like in the case of Serena and Nika during Women Life Freedom Movement. 5. According to the Islamic clerics like Khomeini, it is okay to lustfully touch girls below the age of 9. Disgusting. Please stop pretending you cared about Iranian schoolgirls prior to the war between US-Israel versus the Islamic regime in Iran. My heart aches for all the girls and women in my country and all of the atrocities I have been through. It's a tragedy that schoolgirls died in the elementary school in the Minab city of Hormozgan. In my opinion, The death of these innocent kids falls on the shoulders of the Islamic regime. Either the Islamic Republic did it themselves to gain sympathy of the world, or the situation was created through decisions that put civilians at risk. The other day, they hold fucking press conference in schools. They're putting their guns and ammos in there. Iranians are fed up with this Islamic regime and IRGC. We want to be free of them. Stand with us.